We're joined right now on RealAgriculture.com by Professor Mathen. She is at the University of Ottawa, and she focuses in constitutional law. Welcome today, Professor Mathen.
Thank you.
It was very interesting yesterday. Of course, the judge ruled against Minister Ritz in favor of the Canadian Wheat Board. I was on Twitter yesterday, and I saw your tweet as far as the judge's decision was stunning. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yes, I think it's always stunning when you see a court essentially say that the government has disregarded the rule of law. It's hard to think of a more serious charge that you could make against a minister, and so to see the detailed way in which the federal court judge explained that is it's not common. Let's put it that way. It's a relatively rare thing to happen.
Yeah, I guess so. What happens now? So if they did break the law, Jerry Ritz is obviously not going to jail. But what happens next?
Well, that's a really good question, because what the court said was that it was only concerned with the actions of the minister. There were no questions before it about the current legislation, and there was no question before it about Parliament's ability to pass that legislation. But in saying that the minister acted illegally in proposing the bill, which is now before the Senate, I mean, it does sort of beg the question, well, what is the status of that law? Should it be passed by Parliament? Is that also going to be in conflict with the rule of law? Now, all the court did was it issued a declaration finding that the minister had acted improperly or had acted contrary to the provisions in the Wheat Board Act, and it left it at that. So we're in a bit of unknown territory here, because these kinds of challenges are so rare, and frankly, the provision in the Wheat Board is a very rare statutory provision.
Yeah, well, who knew that farmers deciding on what to do with their wheat was would cause such a big issue? And I guess I was talking last night to some farmers, and they were asking a lot of questions about it, and one of the things is people were saying is, what now does the Senate do if a judge has said that the minister acted illegally, or I'm not sure what the right legal term is there, but he didn't act in the right way? Can Senate can they pass this bill, and can they then get royal assent, or this is completely uncharted territories?
We're really getting into the boundary between law and politics. And certainly, everyone's actions have to be guided by law. And in this case, it's the Canada Wheat Board Act, which I should say can be subject to different interpretations. That particular section of the Wheat Board Act, it's not totally cut and dried as applied to the situation. But once you move beyond that, I mean, Parliament's ability to pass legislation is one of the most fundamental rules that we have. That legislation has to be, of course, in accordance with our Constitution. But other than that, Parliament's authority is supreme. That's in fact exactly how we describe it. So when you have the court saying, well, this minister, who's sort of part of the executive branch, has acted illegally in proposing this bill or proposing this change, what is the relationship between that and then the subsequent action of Parliament? So, for example, could a private member have proposed this change? Would that be enough to get around the Act? Because the Act simply says the minister shall not propose a change. It's really a bit of a thicket that we're in right now.
So if you were the lawyer for the CWB, what do you do now?
I think you think about whether you would possibly try and challenge the actual legislation that comes out, or you use this really for some kind of to garner some kind of political momentum. And this is where, again, I think the dividing line between law and politics has gotten blurred here. And I think that's the kind of choice that the Friends of the Wheat Board, which is actually what they call themselves, will have to face.